Well, right off the bat, we are going to be hopping into the initial draft phase here with both that Mirage that you love to highlight banned out by the likes of Purdue. They're probably listening behind the scenes there. Northwood themselves going to be taking that Bebop away. Don't want anything to do with it after what was that last match with Cardi there. Instead, we will still see Purdue walk away with the Haze, notably into potentially the hands of Jester once again here. And something that I did want to touch on, slew on this McGinnis, an underrated pick personally when I talk about that high-level deadlock play. If you're able to make the turrets and that spectral wall work for you, it can be a supreme fighting entity and split as well here.
And Slew was making that happen. I think back to the game when you saw Slew in a one-on-one, I'm pretty sure against the Wraith Soaks, who was really St. Clair's pop-off character, and the 1v1 was prolonged so long. You saw Slew just utilizing the turrets, everything to the best ability. I think that's Slew. If you go back to the McGinnis, I wouldn't be too surprised, but we're seeing a little bit of a change in the draft on the side of Northwood with, on the side of Purdue with seeing the Wraith come in alongside this Ivy and the Haze. I'm not surprised at all to see this Haze come in.
No, not at all here. I will say the Haze, a fantastic setup for them off of what was last matches. Notably, we did get a little taste of the Wraith, I believe, under what was Nocturnal, and this is a composition that does build super well now, right? We've seen the supportive entity that Macron can play when we were talking about initially that Ivy. We got some incredible rescues and performances there in that regard, and of course, you bring up things like that airdrop, but ultimately, this is a composition that is putting itself together front to back, and more importantly, across the time scale of what we will see when we talk about the accumulation of souls. This is something that most teams, notably in my personal opinion, aren't good enough yet to capitalize on early game pressure. So having these scaling options on your arsenal for Purdue is going to be something that potentially pays off for them if they can get to that late game.
You think about shutdowns for that scaling. I mean, the Infernus ultimate, the concussive combustion alongside the Dynamo with the singularity. We saw that singularity be a little bit of an issue for the Haze in the match versus Purdue versus Thomas. And, you know, maybe towards the end it wasn't as prominent, but you saw the Haze get caught by that singularity here and there. And, you know, in the hands of somebody of Northwood, will that elevate this hero now? Alongside that, a Viscous pickup. We haven't actually seen Viscous today, but in the likes of maybe potential survivability against a composition that Purdue is putting together, that cube is going to come in handy, especially if that Dynamo finds himself in trouble using that singularity. So I don't mind seeing the Viscous at all.
No, not at all. I think it is a supportive option that is you can write home all the time about. Fantastic for the laning phase, and of course can build into, like you said, some really, really good safety. And alongside that Dynamo, you have a very nice setup for what could potentially be these dual lanes when we talk about Broadway and Greenwich as we get into the game here. The Abrams and Krill, though, they set up that wombo, literally combo, that we're going to be seeing out of Purdue here. And they do put together, once again, that front to back that I brought up at the beginning of this draft. Now, notably, with the lockdown potential that I was waiting to see from Purdue. The damage is great, but if you don't have a way to access that damage and put it together, or at least sustain what is an easy realm of execution there, that's what you're going to be missing. And of course, that Krill and Abrams is an excellent pickup that will enable both of those high scaling picks to pull up off.
And I was a little bit worried because I said in the match versus St. Clair that, you know, we see a Krill on one side. You usually expect the Paradox to go to the other side, but instead Purdue gets away with both the Krill, the Paradox, and the Wraith, which are three really good setup options for this Abrams.
We'll jump hot into the game here. Purdue, of course, are your Ambire Ham. Northwood, your Sapphire Flame.
So taking a look at the matchups that we do have, Viscous McGinnis in the Greenwich side for Northwood. Northwood also representing the Shiv and the Dynamo working together, and they're going to be fighting up against the Paradox and the Wraith. So I'd say Northwood putting these lanes together very well. Purdue, not too bad, but they're going to have to be careful and show some respect, I'd say, especially in that Greenwich lane.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, There is a lot of play that we can see out of Slew later here, but you are right. With the early scaling that can really come online from things like, of course, that Abrams, paying your respects, especially with that early potential and closing towards that kind of 10-minute marquee, you have to be super, super careful. And the thankful thing is Faustus is going to be notably on the Viscous here. This is a big difference. It was last time around we saw him on what was instead the Infernus. So a slight change to balance out this roster.
Yeah, man. It slew over towards that Viscous. I wouldn't say it's too different from the McGinnis, but you're kind of playing, like, I'd say a whole different ballpark when it comes to where you provide your support. Rather than long range, Viscous is very in that brawl sense. Icy on the Warden, still having no issues. That's going to be Sage going down and a little bit damage over towards this York downtown Guardian. As we're coming up to 2 minutes, just a minute left before those boxes start spawning up as well. And I'm sure that's when we're going to start seeing some of these Northwood players go take some routes.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, getting that secured there is alongside that. Something I do want to point out is we are seeing a little bit of a dominance in the hands of Jester thus far when we take a look at the other side of the map as we peel over towards the park side. And it will inevitably be Jester in major leads here against what I can only assume is Tired here. Now in the hands of the Infernus. It's a little bit more of a pickup that's ease of action there, but you definitely don't want what we arguably said was one of the weakest performances against someone you don't need to come online here.
Yeah, and we expected Tired to maybe struggle a little bit, but Tired will know that even if you struggle in this early game, the rest of your team is there to lift you up as you start to scale. And I didn't really see Tired go that far down into the later games. I mean, he still was able to manage to put up those storm clouds and deal a lot of damage on that 7, but with the Infernus, how will that play into it? You don't have that accessibility of just jumping up and proccing that ultimate right away.
As we pop on back over, of course, to Greenwich side of things, I do want to point out fantastic utilization of the Spectral Wall there. It's something that Slew has shown coming off of what was the semifinals area, and will continue to do so. But we'll continue to see even more pressure here on the other side. Icy, one of the first pickups, of course, with that Guardian in tow here. I personally was not expecting to see the Warden absolutely come alive this early into game. And for this big switch up, especially of Sage on the Moan Krill, we needed to see the bleeding absolutely stop here. That's a big tool for getting into the fights here for Purdue. And if you want to be in that tanky forefront position to really work with things like that combo later on, you need to sustain, pick the souls back up, and close the gap, because it's 2K difference. Icy is already in the availability of a last stand. That is a super early ultimate pickup due to the fact that you've been wasting away. My gosh.
Sage, yeah, going down again. It's tough because you know the capabilities of Icy on the Mirage, and on Warden, you can do just as much, if not more, in that last stand. Well, Guardian's gonna go deep. Looking to see some trades. The Guardian chip damage, and the Cube coming to the rescue there. In deep is Admiral Macron, and Macron gonna drop there at the assist from Faustus. It's Slew picking up that finisher for the Ivy.
Shout out to Faustus, an incredible save. We talked about the safety of this pickup in this lane, and there you go. Once we get to the mid game, you see that deep engagement here. No surprise on that, especially with that shoulder charge now being available. And instead, it is a complete dominance of lane. Faustus doesn't even slow down here. Constantly tightness for the seismic impact immediately coming out here. The goo ball will provide a bit of security. Can Slew make the escape? A bit of a punch away, and finally the Spectral Wall just a little too late.
Yeah, you might get away with the goo ball, but you can't goo ball your teammate there. Slew has to go back to spawn, heal up, and that's going to be some good damage onto the Guardian. But take a look over towards York. Icy just laying down the law against this Moan Krill. Sage just can do absolutely nothing but farm up around him and allow Icy to chip at this Walker, already down to about half. He's getting pinched out here, so this is a good chance to utilize that airdrop. Icy goes into last stand. Can you sustain enough? It's going to be a tough fight in the 1 versus 3, but look at that damage he's doing. Down goes Macron. You lose the last stands, and Icy is big chillin' here in York.
Meanwhile, tries to hit the bind, finds it on the other side there. Cardi will pummel back with a couple of punches. That'll pick a little bit of the healing out and away, but Faustus rotating on the other side there secures an absurd level of kills. But it really comes back to Icy. 3v1 potential. We talk about the build-up after securing so many of those early souls there. 5K, absolutely absurd. It makes a massive difference. Even if it is close there, you're not as strong walking into that lane-on-lane matchup.
And he just continues to impress for that one, but that's most likely the Guardian still under pressure over towards the York downtown. And I mean, fortunately enough for Purdue, that's the only objectives that you've lost. But Icy can take this time now that it's shoved over to help out Greenwich. So this is a great call for Northwood to just continue to push some pressure onto Purdue.
Absolutely. We need to see some kind of response here, but ultimately, in the end, love that kinetic carbine. Good chunk of damage up above from Flash. Notably, we did talk about this. This is EN. Going to be Flash on your screen currently as well. That's going to be one of the newer players that we're checking out coming into our final of the day. And also some of the final moments of Macron.
Going down, the Guardian will fall. I mean, McGinnis just shreds right through that Guardian health. Maybe not going to fall right away. Going to be forced off by Sage. Faustus still not giving up for this one just yet.
Love this.
Yeah, the cube's going to get you back nice and healthy, and you're going to have a wave now to push Sage even further back. This Guardian most likely will end up falling, and Sage and Macron cannot do anything to stop it.
Literally sitting on the 4-500s there, nothing to write home about for Sage in terms of the early itemization. And meanwhile, as Seismic getting back from Cardi will continue the pressure. Icy caught out finally in far too deep here, past that initial Guardian out in a way there. Cardi, one of the first few to actually capitalize on that situation. Another big one for us is Jester. We worried about Tired here, already picking up the security there. Now Slew with the Spectral. It's going to be an airdrop that secures safety out in a way for the both of these two. Hop off the Covenant, and you will secure a Guardian alongside it.
Not going to give up, though, for Northwood. And you're in here. Macron going to punch the last stand, now being procced for Northwood. It's hunting down this Abrams. Cardi, even with the Divine Barrier, just not able to outlast the damage that Icy is laying down. They had the shot at the Guardian, and you had the backup there from Macron, but it just didn't seem like Purdue were really able to read that properly.
No, especially when we talk about the fact that you've got Icy now in this slowing Hexa as well. It makes that escape potential so much harder. The air drops down in a way, and anybody who's just on walking potential, no shoulder charge, notably for Cardi on their side, means that's it. There's not much for you to do here.
I'm waiting for Jester to maybe make some moves. Flash is going to take out Malachite, so that's a pick onto the Dynamo. Should be able to open up some of these lanes as Braden's now solo holding over towards Broadway Uptown. You see Purple Guardian's going to fall on the side of Northwood. That's Jester pushing Tired further and further back this lane. As now that that's done, I mean, Tired, although you are pushing back, if you give this up, I think Jester can start to maybe look to provide some support now.
Yeah, potential opportunities out and away there. It's that big difference. We talk about the Icy Sage lane and the Tired Jester lane, and Tired, credit where it is due, far from the performances we saw last time around on what was the 7, albeit it is still a massive 3K difference between the both of this lane on matchup. Jester, like you said, the minute they start getting into these major team fights and we see that potential smoke bomb into bullet dance combo that we have come to know from the successful Purdue gameplay last time around, that could be the difference maker that we need after what a dominance we've seen from Icy in the early game.
Especially when that Haze gets the ricochet into the unstoppable, into the silencer. I mean, it's just, it adds on when that Haze gets active, but we're seeing Macron in a little bit of an issue here. Gonna take to the sky. Tired goes down again. Can Macron stay alive? Yes, the Ivy is gonna be able to escape back to the walkers, so now gonna turn around, wave clear alongside this in Krill in a moment. Abrams looking to get pushed out. Icy with the call to hopefully catch this overextension. Cardi is going to find the York Guardian over on the uptown side of Northwood, but will it cost you in your life? It seems like that's going to be the case. The parry into the kill. Icy, you know, ironically is on fire.
Yeah, you just can't bait it out when you're in that direct mano-y-mano combat there. You have to temper your fist there, because Icy will freeze you where you stand. In the end, it is still a dominant switch up for Icy there, but I do like the fact that they did switch it out to B-Cardi. Now, Singularity double catch complex there to send Flash a blink away here. It's one of the better responses we've gotten out of Northwood from that security, and now maybe the push to go alongside it. This Guardian completely full health, but like we've seen now on the recovery, 2 members on the other side, Macron and Sage, potentially looking for what could be side ganks here.
Everyone's going to be picked up too by Tired. It looks like Northwood are going to run this telekinesis. Investis. Will that be enough for Nocturnal to proc this fight? It looks like Northwood aren't going to be able to escape. Malachite comes to help that one out, most likely transferring them away. York Walker goes down by Icy, and that urn is going to safely find its way.
Shout out to Northwood. They've had good control, like you said, with that early push from Tired, and that's why they get the transition. There's so much attention to spread on the map, especially when you have Icy pushing so deep that it's going to lead to these macro securities here. In the end, now switch over to Greenwich. That'll be the push alongside Tired to hopefully start to open up the rest of the map, because that is one major walker down, with Icy now potentially not really looking to side lane split. That's going to be a worrisome enemy here for the future.
And on top of that, you still have 2 Guardians standing. You don't have your flex slot yet. If you're Purdue, you just need to take one more down, but it's just tough to break through this impenetrable wall that has been the Northwood duo lanes. As the Viscous is holding down Greenwich, you have still the Shiv and the Dynamo doubled up here over onto Broadway. Now, Purple's actually being pushed out by the McGinnis and the Infernus. That's Tired and Faustus, going to force a little bit of action from Purdue to maybe catch this.
Yeah, Slew over here on the side on that McGinnis is going to back away for just a bit, but this does force that response. Like you're saying, Flash is quick to jump over to the side here, and remember, this opens the map up. Having this kind of quick reaction here is something that now we see Cardi being taken advantage of. Binding launch there into the double stun is finally responded with the combo from Sage to lock Icy down here, but that is a thick Warden indeed. The stand to come over this seismic is up into the sky, and I'll tell you what, it will represent with at least 1 KP pickup. Meanwhile, Faustus from the backside, I mean, he will absolutely lay it in a chunk away here from behind the truck.
Yeah, Taviscus not afraid to jump in deep to help out your Warden. Death stands. Icy still alive, cubed by Faustus, who's been all over the support of his teammates. Healing right should get this Viscous back to full health, and it looks like Icy not out of danger just yet. Jester's going to be able to track down that Warden. A big kill there. And this is exactly what you're looking for from Purdue and your Haze. Looking to make it a double kill, but that's a tough Viscous. Here comes Malachite, and there goes Jester.
That's about as good as you can ask for. Meanwhile, the Spectral Wall from the other side stuns just about everyone. A full AP upgraded telekinesis will stop this fight in its tracks as the knockup once again. Brayden aside, can't quite find the execution to the hold for Purdue here. They open up finally with Jester coming on down to Greenwich, and the rest of the team delivers as the cleanup.
And it's so smart from Jester to pressure that one out enough. I mean, you get that singularity out. It's so quick as Malachite to react to that, especially considering Faustus was in trouble. But as soon as that singularity's done, what's going to stop Purdue from following up Jester? So it's just good teamwork from Purdue finally putting a breath of life into the side. You're going to get your flex slot out, and you and I, we get a moment to breathe, and I mean a moment.
Absolutely. We're already right back into it there. Jester, notably, I do want to point this out, 16K up, the leader of the pack here. What was massive, at least early KP pickups from Icy, we have to at least contextualize with the difference of soul expansion. It gets more extreme as time goes on here. And I will say, as we take a look at Jester, that itemization to go alongside it already has that ricochet available. This is a massive pickup to go alongside the capitalization around the bullet dance. It makes that ultimate twice as scary coming into these team fights, and it's the whole, at least what we see out of that great farming potential and control out towards the side of Park Avenue this game.
Well, let's see it. Ricochet active, going to be caught by the kinetic pull, so you track down this Dynamo, you do, but you have a chance to turn. It's a 3-on-1. The telekinesis picks up Brayden. You lose out on Cardi, but the trade over into Broadway should be able to pressure out this Walker. Luckily, the Dynamo got out, so you have some wave clear there for Northwood. but that's going to force Purdue away from this one. They know that Icy and Faustus are in Greenwich, so they're going to collapse on these two.
Faustus there just running out of the goo ball. Will have to walk this way. No longer 60 to 70% on that resistance. Should be safe here, but unlikely to save the day for Icy this time around. Flash, of course, with that paradoxical swap. Now, a full send here. I do want to point out Slew and Tired, respectively, playing the outer lanes there. Park and York trying to look for push. You do have a response by Cardi on one side, and have to be super careful because I'm pretty sure Tired's going to get caught out from this one.
I mean, I don't know how else to put it other than I'm just really impressed with the adaptations I'm seeing from Purdue. The one issue I was seeing from St. Clair is, you know, yes, they tested Northwood early, but they never really changed the way that they were playing. Purdue are completely swapping up their focuses. Now that you have Jester roaming around the map, Icy is no longer able to just bully people out, because as soon as you do it for Northwood, Purdue are recognizing that, and they are turning around to help out the rest of their team. I mean, this is a really good change from Purdue.
I mean, it's really just simply what can a Warden do in the mid game versus these high scaling picks. If you put all of your soul structure onto something like Jester, you're gonna get more bang for your buck. In comparison, on the other side of things there, you are not going to be as successful with that Warden on its expansion, especially given the fact that most of the kills were sustained early here. Sadly, by the way, the urn not quite picked up. Tried to pull it off with the airdrop there. It's a pretty standard combo. In the end, it's going to be dropped completely by the likes of Jester here. And what could have been a nice early setup for Purdue would have been one of the first ones we've seen this game thus far.
And you might be surprised why I put the Ur down, but I mean, you lose Cardi. And although Cardi's going to call off the respawn, you just don't want to be caught on that rotation. Especially if Northwood start to shove these lanes. You have to react to that and get some of that map control back. So this is when there's a little bit of a lull in the fight, so around the 17, almost 18-minute mark, and teams are going to be looking to clear out their camps to see if you can force into the next stage of itemization that you're going to be looking at for power scaling. I'm sure definitely the Haze is going to be looking towards that, but for players from Northwood who are maybe starting to fall behind and need that next item to really push them into contention of Jester on this Haze, these camps are going to come in real handy, but Jester just continues to catch people out and hunt them down.
Yeah, this is a big problem there because it's not just the ricochet anymore. Also the lucky shot as well. You've ballooned the damage potential to go alongside Jester. The single pick potential, it's already terrifying in team fights. But if you are caught out alone, it is simply but that. Shout out to Icy though, still being this split menace. Distracted for just a moment long there, especially after the reset from Cardi. Icy is able to walk this one forward and at least secure walkers ahead. That's another flex slot.
And Icy's already back with the team. Nocturnal, she went to go cover that wave back at purple, but it's already done. Here comes the urn, airdropping the Haze. It's going to be Jester carrying it around, but everybody's grouped up. This is going to be a lethal team fight, to say the least. Everybody here from Northwood, you have all the ults as well.
This sucks. I really would love to see they prioritize someone else on that urn because you need Jester for these fights more directly. So glad that it is the drop that comes alongside it. Likely the end for Faustus. Love the heavy melee there to push the cube out and away. It's a full paradoxical swap to go alongside it. Nocturnal in the end, not going to be available. Already used telekinesis, but the seismic slam into the back lane. It's a setup for singularities across the board here. A big execution on their side. The combo will lock down in response here, trying to dash us away, but from above, you still have Jester in the midst of the action. The ricochet potential is just too much for them to handle.
The depths of the composition from Purdue is shown. The slam from Cardi, the pickup from Sage. Finally, that combo actually shutting down some main state there from Northwood. It just sets up Jester to put it all away with that death dance. It's a beautiful symphony there from Purdue. And on top of that, you get the urn. Fortunately enough, and you may have missed it for a second in that team fight, but Slew did push through that Greenwich side. He got the Greenwich walkers. That's 3 walkers down now for Purdue.
But this is the problem. We're getting into these, at least, exchanges that are becoming bigger and bigger here. Northwood isn't able to survive with as many pieces of the puzzle, and as those respawn timers get longer here, I mean, even though the macro hasn't been absolutely perfect from Purdue, they're going to be in a situation where off of a successful team fight like that in just a few minutes, they can walk in and potentially end it all off of a nice reset there,
Yeah.
or even set up for great things like that mid-boss. This isn't one of those situations, given that we're still at that 20-minute mark here, but it leaves me so worrisome, because when we jump back over now to the side of Jester, we've got even more to work with. An inhibitor in play here, another tier 4 item. This is a massive slow that Jester now has to work with in the midst of these team fights. We talk about the escape potential. It's going to be little to none there, given the fact that Jester's doing this so well.
Yeah,
Does not get into the midst, doesn't invest the bullet, just sends it.
Icy gonna be picked up in the transfer. Now Malachi just trying to keep the rest of the team alive. Divine Barrier gonna hold them strong as Jester's Death Dance is not active. You get the rescue beam back.
Nice.
You got the abilities out, almost taking down Malachite very low as the Dynamo. I think Purdue got exactly what they were hoping for, maybe a couple kills, but they're able to shove this lane deeper.
This is the problem. Jester doesn't even have the bullet dance available, but when you're this high scaled on your itemization, all you have to do is just auto. The absolute scaling, those fixation stacks, it just makes you in threat when you are in this sight line here.
There.
Gonna find the sleep dagger now. Icy has to respect this. Knocked up from afar. The wall is a place of safety from Flash.
Singularity almost active, 8 more seconds. Malachite may look to go into this. You have the Warp Stone, and you have Icy here, but Icy is so low. No healing right either. It does get stopped, so this is where Purdue should just keep on pushing. Jester now looking for a different angle in. You have a tussle over towards downtown York, where Slew is trying to push against Cardi. Jester now taking a different look into this one. The ricochet lands. Icy's going to be taken down. And where is this going to stop? This not going to stop anywhere soon.
This is just absurd at this point. You're not even respectfully, what I would even say is a team fight. You are just straight deathballing it there, and anyone who's caught out for a second too long just burns at the might of Jester here on their way to their next walker across. I need to see some kind of response here from Northwood, because they are bleeding at the seams here.
Jester's a monster. There's no other way to say it. The respawn timers, fortunately, aren't long enough to give them that mid-fight capabilities, but if Jester drops down and starts the mid-boss, maybe that can start another team fight. And Purdue are so confident in their win capabilities right now. They've just won the past, 3 team fights in a row. Northwood haven't really shown anything recently that can stop Jester.
I mean, this is the problem, right? You could potentially itemize, pick up things like that curse to at least slow the problem down, but when you're focused so much on one single major target, you are getting to the point where things like Cardi are beginning to get really, really scary. That as an engage tool, alongside pickups like great itemization, alongside, my apologies, the Colossus. I mean, that is a fantastic threat in your backline that you have to figure out how to play against. Not to mention Nocturnal. She's getting so strong as well. This is a high-scaling spirit damage alongside the weapon to just absolutely shred him. Meanwhile, chase Jester all day long. See how that plays out.
It's not going to play out in any way. The escape capabilities of this Haze, and already back to full health. Icy going to pivot over towards Greenwich. See if you can catch this lane as they're pushed in towards the Walker. Nocturnal easily able to get out of there in the TP. Maybe the Mo and Krill, but the airdrop is enough to stun up Icy, and you just cannot chase them just yet. Brayden tries, but he dies to the Flash. And the Paradox is going to eliminate the Shiv, and 3 members of Northwood now on respawn with 41 seconds on Brayden. Do you maybe look to mid-boss, or are you just going to crack the base here?
They're already side-splitting almost all the lanes there. I'll point out the position of Jester on the other side here. It is a complete dominance as they do invest into those double Guardians now. I mean, this is your best opportunity. It's a big split. You could potentially pull something off here, but like I said, you're just no longer matching up even when it doesn't contain Jester.
Hey, you're on survival mode right now if you're Northwood. It's just, where can we shut them down? We have to maybe isolate some of these teammates, but as soon as they do, the rest are right around the corner. Purdue are everywhere on the map, yet nowhere at the same time. When you try to chase them, you can't keep up, and when you want to fight, you're just walking into a trap.
I'll tell you what, we'll take a little bit of respite on the fight, and likely because it is going to be a clear of Broadway from Jester's side there. Maybe, no, not quite the investment, all the way over towards the eastern end. Even still, though, watch out for this response from behind. Jester will come through.
Yeah, Jester just looking to line up, just slipping into the back line.
Still behind.
Nobody has any idea the telekinesis is available at all. The setup is going to be here, and you just need that engage. Singularity not going to be popped up just yet, and it's not even enough to keep them alive. Jester's going to rip through the Dynamo, and Cardi follows up. 3 down for Northwood, and Purdue pushing forward.
Already following suit immediately with the airdrop there. I'm going to assume the Kudzu bomb already utilized. Up from above, it's the likes of Icy, who is nothing but a marshmallow at the face of this damage at this point in the game. It is a complete dominance from the likes of Purdue here. And now, with major timers on the board, 30 seconds plus, this is likely the end.
Second shrine being deleted. Braden's alive, but a lonesome Shiv against the might of Purdue. Not much to be done here. Slew may be up. Malachite not having that singularity. Tired. You do have the concussive combustion, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
We're already at the discussion point. It's a almost 40, 50k soul difference. The game is over. This is now a discussion regarding what can Northwood do when we talk about the next game here, because even with all these members up, you're not going to match up damage-wise.
You're just thinking about the next game here if you're Northwood. As the fight in the pit ensues, the heavy barrage, will it find something? Sage does fall, but the shots onto the patron, looking to bleed it out. Jester finds Malachite and Tired. The patron's destroyed, and Purdue striking first.